No matter what a stripper tells you, there's no sex in the champagne room. No sex in the champagne room. No sex in the champagne room.
What will they tell their spouses? More than 500 people who visited Toronto Strip Club are urged to quarantine for 14 days after a worker tests positive for the 19. And, since I'm horrible, they probably would have tested for something else. I'm just kidding. I'm sure these ladies are on the up and up. I actually hear that, I don't know about strip clubs, but in these whorehouses, best little whorehouse in Texas, that they get tested quite frequently. And that's what people talk about a lot of times in terms of legalizing it and controlling the testing and everything to ensure a safe environment for everybody. I don't really care, to be quite honest. If they want to sell their bodies for money, who am I to care, right? Do what you got to do. Worker at Brass Rail, the Brass Rail strip club in Toronto, tests positive for 19. I have to be careful what I say here because they'll slap that Rona warning below this video, even though it has nothing to do with it, in terms of talking about the numbers or the medications or anything like that. Up to 550 people may have been exposed and have been urged to quarantine. Ontario Premier Doug Ford wondered what conversations the men were going to have with their spouses. Was Doug Ford the one who was several years ago? Is he that guy, or am I thinking of somebody else? I'll have to look that up. Hopefully I'm right about that, but maybe I'm wrong. The club was issued a notice of non-compliance, and the city is working to ensure physical distancing measures are followed. Public health officials on Friday said as many as 550 people may have been exposed to 19 at a Toronto strip club last week and urged them to self-isolate for 14 days. We'll see if they are going to actually do that, unless the cops slap some kind of monitor on them, unless you have a Mountie outside their door. What they need to do is send a letter to their house if they indeed do have a spouse. That way, she can know about it, because the guy can always lie, right? And I'm assuming they're all guys, but the guy could just say nothing happened. Why is he going to tell her? It is the first time city officials have issued such as warning. It should be such a warning, since allowing nightclubs and restaurants to reopen without social distancing restrictions on July 31st. Ontario Premier Doug Ford wondered what conversations the men were going to have with their spouses. I'm sure he's just having some fun with it and shaming them a little bit. Bottom line is they aren't going to say anything. Look at the Brass Rail. That almost looks like Jenna Jameson from like 15 years ago. I feel sorry for people. Why do I know about that? I don't know. I feel sorry for people when they go to their house and tell them that they were at the Brass Rail, Ford quipped to reporters. All right, so he is just having some fun with it. That's who I feel sorry for. Sorry for the spouse. Seriously, man. True. Man, I wouldn't want to be on the end of that one. Toronto Public Health said a worker at the Brass Rail strip club on Yonge Street, we'll just assume that's Yonge Street, tested positive for the virus. Bye, Jenna. Authorities said the employee worked on August 4th, 5th, 7th, and 8th. They refused to specify whether the person was a stripper or another member of staff. It said officials were contacting individuals who provided their information to the club upon entry and urged them, as well as those who had been in close contact with them, to self-isolate and get tested. Gentlemen, ladies, if you're into this type of stuff as well, if the club is asking you for your information, unless they take your ID from you, right, and request your phone number right then and verify that it's yours, wouldn't you give them fake information? Look at this. I don't know if this is... No offense to her. I'm sure she's a fine individual with career aspirations. Establishments are required to keep a customer log during the pandemic. Yeah, my name's John Doe. I'm signing in as John Doe. Dr. Vanita Dubé We'll give her that elegant pronunciation. I don't know if it's Doobie or Dubay. Let's go with Dubay. Associate Medical Officer of Health said the club was issued a notice of noncompliance and the city is working to ensure physical distancing measures are followed, which they told us above. In a statement on Instagram, the club said the Brass Rail closed its doors immediately when we heard that an employee may have tested positive for the 19. The safety of our city, staff, and patrons is always a top priority. Sure it is. It turned out to be only one isolated case, and that case was quickly contained. All of our staff were subsequently tested, and all tests came back negative. The Brass Rail has strict safety precautions in place, but as an added measure, we closed our establishment for another 72 hours on our own accord without direction from anyone. Bravo, good sir. Bravo, good sir. Look at the Brass Rail. They give you their spiel. No, there's no prices attached to this. You can pause it if you want to read that stuff. Oh, that's Doug Ford. We then hired a professional sanitizing, disinfecting crew to thoroughly sanitize, in hazmat suits, the Brass Rail in its entirety. There's jokes that could write themselves about strip clubs and strippers in general and the need for hazmat suits, but I'm not going to go there. Our safety measures continue to go above and beyond to ensure our valued staff and patrons are always kept safe and secure. Dr. Andrew Morris, a professor of infectious diseases at the University of Toronto. Okay, I'm sure this will be interesting. And the medical director of the Antimicrobial Stewardship Program at Sinai University Health Network said strip clubs, nightclubs, or bars should not be open until at least schools are up and running. Exactly. You knew what was coming. The mongering. We just know enough from everywhere that they are going to the sources of outbreaks, Morris said. I don't think people realize 550 people potentially exposed. You know how long it's going to take them to chase down 550 guys, half of which probably gave fake ID or information. Bravo, good sir. He saved it at the end. He was killing me with that first part, but he came clutch with that last one. You have to admit, you got to love him for that. And that's exactly what I was talking about. Now, I was just thinking about this. Just to play the advocate a little bit. 550 people inside the strip club, yeah, I get it. But how many people do we come across in a grocery store or these other establishments that are open? Anything that's open, you see people out at restaurants. Anywhere where things are open, you have risk. I get some things are more of a need than other things in some ways, but it's hard to regulate somebody's freedom and to dictate to people what's essential and what isn't. How do you get to tell us that a Walmart, for instance, is essential and they're allowed to stay open, their workers get to get paid, but these individuals like we've seen at the gym, a lot of these small businesses, they're not seen as essential and their livelihoods are basically being stripped away because government decides what's essential and what isn't. These individuals that are going to go bankrupt, possibly losing everything, because somebody else is dictating that large corporations, just taking a stab at Walmart, for instance, or Amazon, can stay in business, while other places can't. Now, most people would probably agree that a strip club isn't essential, but, you know, it has its charm, so to say, for some individuals. Anyway, that's all I've got. Interesting story, pretty funny. Fake IDs for sure, if these guys are smart. And if they weren't smart, what are they going to be telling the ladies in their life? Well, probably going to be signing some documents and saying, yes, ma'am, yes, attorney, I'll sign wherever you need me to sign these divorce papers. Oh, one quick thing, story real quick. I had somebody when I was working, I used to do claims adjusting. And the guy, he was in the car. Supposedly he had a girlfriend. She was the insured driver. He was out at like 2 a.m. And he was out with this woman and they came from, he admitted it, a strip club. He was very adamant about me not contacting the individual who owned the insurance policy, which obviously we have to do. So I would keep sending letters to the house. And I got tired of it because he kept intercepting the letters and calling me and saying, hey, eventually he was like, oh, I need you to stop sending these letters. So I kept sending the letters because I needed to verify coverage, though. That's just how it is. Eventually I got to the point where I was putting details in the letter about how the vehicle was being used and everything, because again, I needed her to contact me and tell me that this guy was authorized to use her vehicle because he wasn't on the policy. It's just a little funny story. Got a hold of her eventually, and you can imagine that it didn't go so well. She didn't know what he was doing and what he was doing out that late and why he had another female in the vehicle. I stayed out of it as much as I could. I just did my job and did my thing and moved on, but I can't imagine that went over well in their household. All right, thanks for watching, everybody. Take care.